Hello, today we're going to talk about the Make in India initiative and how it stands a decade later. So, at its inception, Make in India was motivated by the need to shift India from a predominantly service led economy to a more manufacturing led economy by increasing the GDP share of manufacturing to 25%. It also wanted to reduce the reliance on imports and generate employment for 100 million people. Some of the key pillars to this Make in India initiative were new processes. The motto was ease of doing business, and it became the core for promoting entrepreneurship. Then there was new infrastructure. Development of industrial corridors in smart cities, integrating state of the art technology and high speed communication to create world class infrastructure. There were new sectors that were opened up to FDI, that is foreign direct investment like defense, insurance, medical devices, construction, and railway infrastructure. There was a new mindset as well. The government embraced a role as a facilitator than a regulator. Some of the major initiatives to enable Make in India were production linked incentives or PLI schemes. These enhanced domestic manufacturing and boosted exports by covering 14 key sectors. Then there was the PM Gati Shakti scheme that was launched with the aim of achieving a 5 trillion economy by 2025. It focused on establishing multimodal and last mile connectivity infrastructure to enhance economic growth. Then there was semiconductor ecosystem development. The Semiconductor India program was approved in 2021 to develop a sustainable semiconductor and digital ecosystem. Then there was a Startup India scheme. It was launched to support entrepreneurs, build a robust startup ecosystem, and transform India into a nation of job creators than job seekers. So the question is, how do the schemes stand today? So Make in India spurred a significant foreign inflows, especially in industries like electronics, automobiles, and renewable energies. With its promising talent pool and cost-effective labor, India became increasingly appealing as a manufacturing hub for global players looking to diversify beyond China. Industrial corridors like Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor have emerged, connecting manufacturing clusters to major ports and streamlining logistics. Labor reforms were also a notable stride, consolidating 29 labor laws into 4 codes to balance worker rights with business flexibility. Additionally, land acquisition and reforms in tax simplifications under the GST created a more unified market, which made it easier for businesses to operate. The defense sector, once heavily reliant on imports, has become a focal point for self progress in reliance in manufacturing. In 23-24, defense production reached 1.27 lakh crore with exports to over 90 countries. The net exports in merchandise were about 437.6 billion USDs in FY 23-24. So the question arises, have these initiatives been successful so far? One of the key objectives of the Make in India campaign was to increase the share of manufacturing in GDP to 25% from 16%. The manufacturing sector actually contributed about 16 to 17% of the GDP in the 1990s. And years later, even after the scheme, the sector contribution is still stagnant at 17.7% in 2023. Another key objective of the scheme was to create 100 million new jobs in the manufacturing sector by 2022. This also has not been achieved. Employment in the manufacturing sector has seen little growth over the past decade. The manufacturing sector employs 30.3 million people in 2013 and 14. Various sources such as Statista and Business Standard estimate that although employment has increased to 51.3 million in 2017, it decreased to 35.7 million in 23, and that this decreased, although exacerbated by the pandemic, has started even before 2020. For a country like India with a high level of low-skilled laborers, investment in labor-intensive manufacturing industries like textile and footwear are needed for the manufacturing sector to generate significant employment and absorb these numbers. However, the budget for these industries is much lower. The concentration of investments in capital-intensive manufacturing has resulted in the sluggish growth of labor-intensive manufacturing. Another thing to consider is the PLI schemes. By design, they are much easier for larger firms to access. The quantitative thresholds and targets to which the fiscal incentives are linked are much easier for the larger firms to achieve. So to conclude, Although there have been some commendable achievements, the targets set by the initiative itself are far from being met. It's important to remember that it is very difficult to get an industrial policy right, especially in a moderate capacity state like India. This calls for care and caution.